Hello everyone, this is Devlogger. In this tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to create your own IO games. I've been making IO games since 4 years ago. I could make 4 IO games. You can play them all in the links below. So make sure you go ahead and check them out. What are exactly IO games? IO games are browser-based, massively multiplayer games where you enter only a name with one button, you're in. There is no login, no registration. You can add them as well, but IO games should be as simple as possible. We're gonna cover everything. We're gonna program in JavaScript and a little bit in HTML for the user interface and stuff like that. For example, buttons. So the languages we are going to use is JavaScript and HTML. For the server side, we're gonna use Nodejs. I will talk about these specifically when we are going to code in them. You might have some knowledge about these. You might be a JavaScript programmer already. We can use variety of different libraries. I will use P5js, which is going to help us make the IO game 50% faster, maybe. In fact, that's gonna help us. So I will cover them all right now. Alright, the first thing I'm gonna talk about is the programming language. The programming language is actually the interaction between you and the computer. This is how you command the computer to do anything you want. Okay, so this is what is a programming language. Also, what is a library? A library is actually the thing that makes the programming language easier. It gives us more functionality. For example, some people coded something. Why you do it over? They do it for you. You just call what they created. You use their code. So it makes you do things a lot faster. It makes us a lot faster. I'm gonna tell you what kind of libraries we use in this tutorial, and then at the end we have the database. Database is for saving information of any player. For example, you create an account in a website. Where is your information saved? That's in the database. So this is what we are going to cover here. Alright, the most important thing in a multiplayer game or any other online thing you see on web, it's working like this. Okay, there is a server computer. There is a computer which keeps all the code you write, every code you do. Okay, all your files, everything of your game is in the server. Okay, and then there are clients, actual people who connects to your server using, for example, a name, www.google.com, something like that, or with an IP address. If you're a gamer, you're more familiar with that. So the people who connect to your computer, which is the server now, they are called client. Okay, they are called clients. So a bunch of clients, maybe 1, 2, 3 clients are connected to your computer, to the server, the computer you choose, and each of these clients should have their own they should receive the game actually. Okay, and the language we use for them is JavaScript. I will talk about language in a second. So these guys are going to connect to the server. Okay, and this is the server. Okay, no one has your game. Okay, because IO games does not need to be downloaded. Okay, you just enter the website and you're in the game. How that happens is this. You have a package of data. For example, this is the folders you have, maybe like that. Okay, and then inside here your game files. Okay. Anyone who connects to your server. Okay, so for example, this is your server, and what I holding here, this brown rectangle, this means your game files. This is your game. This is what you created. This is on the server. Anyone who connects, for example, the left client is connecting, the server should send this data to the client, just like that. Okay, how that happened? You notice that the programming language of server is Node.js, and the programming language of client is JavaScript. This is in our case. what I use for IO game making. There are other programming language, great programming languages as well, but I use JavaScript. I feel this is almost the fastest. So the guy who connects to your server, they should receive the data. So keep in mind, Node.js is actually same as JavaScript. Okay, it is only happening on the server side. That is why the name is Node.js, because it's a little bit different with the client side. So you get the file, you send it to the client. How do you send it? We use a library for sending the files. And what is that library? That library is actually the Express library. We call it Express. So Express is responsible for sending the files. Okay, we're not gonna get deep into Express, but for here, Express is going to send files, send and receive files. And then there is something else. After the client receives the files, the client should send information. For example, information about their mouse and keyboard they want to move. We need to send that information to the server. We need to say, okay, my mouse is on the right side of a screen. I keep W, S, A, D, things like that, okay? And sending all those data, they are called information, okay? Information or data, okay? Any of those kind of things are done by something called socket.io. So the responsibility of these is on socket.io library. Okay, so we're using two libraries here for server side and client side for receiving files and information: Express and socket.io. And then the next thing, as you can see here, this by creating these, I was meant the screen. What the client sees on the screen, the actual game, animations, characters, I don't know, the map, the tile map, anything it can be. Okay, the actual game it's the players see on their computer is happening with something called P5js. This is a library, P5js. This is a library of JavaScript. Okay, this is gonna make us this is gonna give us a lot of functionality that helps us to code this a lot faster. So what the people see on their screen is helped by P5js. So this is what we do here. And then we have buttons, menus, I don't know, pages, maybe some information some text you see on the screen, and those are all happened by something called HTML, which is a language by itself. This is not a library. HTML is not a library. HTML is for user interface. This is pretty much it. This is the whole thing happening on the on an online game. Any game you see in the world, this is what happens there. And right now I'm going to show you what programs you need, so let's go ahead and install them. Okay, the first thing we're gonna install is the Node.js, because we are going to use Node.js as our server side. And then after that we need an IDE. I use Visual Studio Code. What is an IDE? IDE is a place that we write code. Okay, it helps us code a lot faster. There are many things that it has. It's not a simple text editor. It has a lot more functionalities. It can find many things that you cannot find in a normal text. It changes the color of your code. It basically helps you a lot when you're coding. But if you do not want to install any IDE, you can use the Notepad. Who cares? You're just writing code. After that, we need a browser. For the browser, I use Google Chrome. I have seen that Internet Explorer has also got very good. It is using the same engine as Chrome right now. But Google Chrome is my recommendation, because Google Chrome is not only the browser that we are going to test our game in, but it is also the browser that helps us find the errors, find the bugs, and stuff like that. We will talk about it later on. Alright, to download the Nodejs, go to the nodejs.org and go to the Downloads tab, and in here just find your version. Okay, make sure that you download the recommended for most users. This is what I always use. It has the less bugs than the current version always. Then find your operating system. Okay, for I'm on a 64-bit Windows, so I get this one. I already downloaded here, and let's go ahead and install it. Click it. Run. It is very normal installation. Just click next, and it's all over. We don't care about anything here. That's it. Okay, this is for the Node.js. Now, let's go ahead and install the Visual Studio Code. It's not gonna be that hard. You can simply go to Visual Studio Code. Simple. Code.visualstudio.com. This is the website. You click on the download, find your operating system, Windows 64-bit, mine. And now we wait. Alright, I have downloaded the latest Visual Studio Code, and let's do a quick installation. It is straightforward. You just next, and it's done. There is nothing fancy about this. Alright, and now I am going to launch the Visual Studio Code just to make sure it works properly. Seems like it does. Right now we don't need to do anything with this, so I'm gonna close it out. That's it for the installation. Right now we're gonna head over and check what is the files we need. We are going to create the folder of our game. The content of that folder is gonna be covered right now. Okay, this is the structure of our game folder. We're gonna do it right now together. Okay, one thing you have to do before start making the folder, you should go to the organize. I'm using Windows 7, so this is how you do it. I'm pretty much sure in Windows 10, on the top side of your this PC of my computer, you can see a tab called View. There you can find the same option. So I go to the folder and search option. I click on the View. Go ahead and find the hide extensions for known file types. Make sure that this is unchecked, just like this. Not checked, unchecked. So apply, OK, and then right click wherever you want. Create a folder with the name of your game, which is my test game. I click on it, I create it. I create two more folders. A client folder, just like the image. Another folder called server. In the server, I'm gonna create a new text file, which is an empty text file. I'm gonna call it server. You can call it pretty much anything you want. I call it server. Node.js programmers usually call it server or app.js. So here we go. Server dot, instead of text, I want it to be a JS, which means a JavaScript file. I create it. I go to the client side. I create two empty folders, assets, another folder called JS, and another text file called index.html instead of text, txt. So once I create it, Google Chrome suddenly recognize it. So this, if you double click on it, it's an empty web page. So this is what we're gonna use. This is the main page for our game, and everything happens here. Almost everything. We can have multiple pages, but right now I go with one. Then you go to the JS folder. I create an empty text file here as well. I'm gonna call it sketch.js, and here is gonna be we are going to code JavaScript here. We're going to write JavaScript code into the sketch.js. So that's the structure of our folder. Let's go ahead and now talk a little bit about HTML and write our first lines of code in HTML. Now that your game folder is ready, go to Visual Studio Code, On the top left, click on the file, click on the open folder, find your game folder, click on it and select the folder. Make sure to select the whole folder. On the left side, you can see pretty much all the files that you have inside that folder is popped up here, so you can choose between them. I'm gonna double click on the index.html, and you can have the index on the index.html on top here. You can write any code, any lines of HTML code you want over here. I'm gonna go with the most basic HTML file ever, okay? And the most important things are gonna be drawn. The whole game is gonna be drawn. It's gonna be drawn on the screen using JavaScript P5js. So we're not gonna do much of a thing with HTML code. So in next few sessions, I will go back on the HTML and we talk about it a lot more. But right now, no. I'm gonna keep it simple. We have something called tag, an HTML tag, dash HTML tag. It basically means a box. Okay, tag is a box in HTML. The most simple, how I can describe it, it's a box. The first tag that I use is HTML tag, which means this is an HTML file. It's gonna be detected by the Google Chrome as a page, as an actual web page. Okay, then we have a head tag. Then we have a body tag. And then in the head tag, we're gonna have a title tag. Oops, title, yeah, that's it. Inside the title tag, you can write the name of your game, which is going to be, of course, it's my test game. Just go ahead, click on the file and save the file. Or there it is. Save the file. The quick shortcut for that is Ctrl S. You hold Ctrl and Tab S. There you save it. Now we're gonna see how this page looks like. This is an actual HTML page. Let's go to our folder, which is this. Go to client and drag the index.html into the Google Chrome or any browser you have. I recommend you using Google Chrome, which is the best. And there you can see on the top, the title is changed to my test game. This is what I chose. Okay, so the other way is that you can also always double click it and it will open for you. The other way is that when you change the code, you just right click, reload, and it will reload it for you. Any changes will be applied. Alright, so this is basically it. Now, I'm going to talk about how to import libraries into JavaScript. Okay, the first thing that we are going to import is a P5js library. Let's go ahead and do that. Alright, to import the P5js library, you have to go to their website. It's a p5js.org. Go there, go to the download tab, find the p5.js, the single file. You can also download the p5.mean.js. I recommend the p5.js single file for now, the full uncompressed version for now, because it's gonna help you understand the code a lot better if you ever decide to go ahead and check how this library is made. So click on it and it should be downloaded in a second because it's a really light file. Okay, now it is downloaded. I just want to drag it into my file. I'm gonna paste it into the my JS folder. Okay, we can have its individual folder for it as well. Okay, going back to Visual Studio Code, I'm gonna create a new tag called script. And I'm gonna end it with a script tag. Oh, what just happened? Script. I'm gonna end it with script, just like that. And this script tag should have something called src, which is equal to our JS folder, our p5js, p5 sketch.js file. Simple as that. Now the library is imported. Any new library that we are going to bring in is going to be underneath it. Simple. Then we have another thing called, I'm going to copy this line of code, I'm going to paste it underneath it with Control V. I'm going to change it to js/sketch.js in order to find my sketch as well. This is finding the library, and this is defining my own custom JS file. So we save that. Now we are going to write a little bit of code in sketch.js for you to see how it works. Now that the P5js library and a sketch.js file is ready to use, we're gonna go to our sketch.js and start writing code in P5js or JavaScript, better said. In order to use P5js library, you need to know something about the functions. There are 3 main functions that P5js uses. I'm gonna write them. After that, I'm gonna tell you what is exactly a function. So the first function that it has is the function Preload. Then it has a function setup. Okay, make it more beautiful. And then we have a function called draw. Okay, what are functions exactly? Let me write something here. Write code. Okay. Write code. What are these? Okay, whenever you're going to write some comments that are not code, these are not code. Okay, this line is not a code anymore because I have commented it with 2 slashes. Okay, 2 slashes, it means that we're gonna write a comment and it's for human eye, not for the computer. Simple as that. Okay, in the function preload, we're gonna write some code. What does that mean? This means that I'm gonna write a bunch of code here, just like that. Whenever I say preload here, whenever I say this, preload, just like that. Whenever I write this bunch of code will be called. Okay, I can call it 5 times, and this line of code will be called five times. It's basically like copying this instead of this. Okay, I can say this instead of that. I can 5 times. It says preload, I don't know, preload, just like that. Okay, so this is how a function works. Okay, the function means a bunch of a pack of code with a name. But the thing is that P5js already took 3 functions with the names draw, setup, and preload. These are pre-made by P5js, and we are just overwriting them. Okay, so they must be there. These are not something that I have named it. Otherwise, any function that you are going to create, for example, you are going to create a function on your own, you can say function Debugging, just like that. Okay, so this is my own custom function. This is a P5js function. If you're wondering where I'm getting these from, you can always go to their P5js website. Just click on get started, and there you can find everything you need to know about these functions and stuff. They have a really good website for that. So this function setup, function draw, things like that. Alright, back in the code. Now I'm going to say, what are these functions exactly? Okay, the preload, what does it do? Okay, it is probably happened that any game that you go in, there is a loading before the game starts. And what is a loading? Loading textures, loading images, loading pictures, videos, I don't know, trailer. Maybe your computer is going to, maybe it's an IO game and the game should be downloaded, things like that. Everything about loading goes here. So I'm gonna write a comment here. Everything about the loading before the game starts. Okay, so this is basically the loading of our game. Every code that we write here will happen in the loading. Then we have the setup. What is this setup? Okay, I'm gonna write another comment and say this will happen before. Oh, okay, this, I better say, this is the first thing that is called when the game is started. So you're setting your game up. Maybe it's about the setting of your game, resolution of your game, maybe the graphics, maybe creating the player objects, things like that. I'm not gonna talk more about these things, but the first thing after the loading, the first thing happens is the setup, and it only happens once, and it only happens once. Happens. Okay. And then what is the draw? The most interesting one. This is what brings your game to life. How it works. This is called a lot of times per second. This is the FPS. FPS stands for frame per second. Okay. And this one is actually the setup. Simple. Okay, so frame per second. You have probably heard in any game that you have played, there is an FPS. Higher FPS means a faster, smoother game. Lower FPS means more laggy game. Okay, so it's gonna happen. The frame per second is gonna be as much as the computer of the client supports. Maybe 30 FPS, 70 FPS, 120 FPS, who knows. But in later lectures, I will tell you how to limit that FPS or how to monitor the FPS, things like that. Let's see how it works now. Alright, the first line of code that I'm going to teach you now is the console.log. So on the setup, I'm gonna say console.log, and in the console.log, I'm gonna give it a string, and in this string, I'm gonna say hello world. Okay, maybe better writing, huh? Okay, hello world, just like that. Notice how I write this code. Okay, how it is working here. I'm basically calling a pre-made functionality of JavaScript, which is the console object, and in that console object there is a function that is called log. It means that logging something on the screen, and here I am giving it a string. What is a string? Let's go ahead. I'll go up here and say it. This is the number 2. Yeah. If I tell the computer number 2 plus number 2, what does it? What is it? This is number 4. Yes. This is mathematical. But what if I'm gonna say 220? I can say 2 number 2s adding together. This will be equal to 22. Things like that. Get it? So the difference between a string and a number is that string is actually acting as a text. Okay, but number is a number. Is an integer or float, but this is an actual string. So if I say s, yeah, this isn't string. I can plus it by it will be equal to si. Simple as that. Okay, so this is how you give your computer, whenever you're going to tell the computer, okay, I have a bunch of text that I'm going to give you, you're gonna put them into the double colon. I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna hold Control and press S. I'm gonna go to my program. I'm gonna go to my folder. I'm gonna double click on the index.html, and you will notice that there is nothing on the screen. We have just logged the hello world. So in order to watch that, a cool thing that Google Chrome has, you can, wherever you are, you can right click on the screen and you can click on inspect, or you can hold Control-Shift-I, or you can also press the F12 button. It will open up a console. Okay, open up something which is a developer console. It is called developers console. You can click on the console, and here is what you see in the log. Okay, so whenever you say console log, it's something for the programmers, not for the clients. But you can log anything you want on the screen using console log. And notice that we're doing it in the P5js setup function. But what if I go back to the code? What if I copy my console.log and I paste it to the draw? I write something else. For example, I say draw. Okay, anything you want here. I say my name, Dev What happens here now? Okay, we're gonna see what is the difference between draw function and setup function right now. Okay, I hit save. I go back to the code, double click it, open my developer tool, and as you can see, the Vloggerio is being called a lot of time per second. So fast, I can't even count. So the hello world only called once because this happens in the setup function, but the Vloggerio is being called many times per second. So this function is actually is your FPS. Let me go back to code. I'm gonna delete this line of code. I'm gonna go back to Chrome and refresh, closing the unwanted tabs. When I refresh, I don't have that anymore here because that's gonna take a space of my computer RAM. So why it be there? I don't know. Okay, here is how we set up the P5js on our computer. In the next lecture, I am going to teach you how to set up the server side as well. In the server side, we're gonna write some code in Nodejs JavaScript, and there we're going to talk about more advanced stuff. So what I need you to do is focus. Just go ahead, follow my code, and in the next lecture, I'm going to teach you how to set up the server side as well. And after that, the cool things will happen. We will actually draw something on the screen, maybe a player, who knows.